Greetings, YouTube and fellow traditionalist Catholics. This is Sergio Becerra II, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be returning back to the Borgia Chronicles, and today we're going to be starting off with Chapter 2. So, at the end of Part 3 of Alfonso Borgia, Pope Nicholas V dies, and now a conclave takes place. So we now enter Chapter 2 with the conclave of 1455. Excuse me. And here we have our top candidate, Cardinal Alfonso Borgia, who we see as a possible candidate, which of course we all know does succeed Nicholas V as the new pope. So here we are, chapter 2, Callixtus III, the first Borgia pope, 1455 to 1458. So here he is, Pope Callixtus III. So let us turn to the next page to begin. That's all this. Okay. I think Dusty or something else on it. I don't know. So here we are. So let us begin. None of the ambassadors reporting on the chances of the individual cardinals in the coming conclave, nor the touts who would have been taking large numbers of bets in Rome on its outcome, considered that the elderly and pious Cardinal Alfonso Borgia had the remotest chance of election to the papacy. At the age of 77, he was too old to offer stability. Moreover, apart from his connections with Naples, he had no political power, nor had he made any effort to ally himself with the political factions within the College of Cardinals. But the prophecy about Alonso's fortunes made by St. Vincent Ferrer some 40 years earlier was about to be realized. So, from the beginning of chapter 1, as I had said in the very first video of this Chronicles reading of the Borgia papacy, this new series, I meant to say, sorry. At the time was the Great Western Schism, a division in the church, 3 popes, 1 legitimate, 2 illegitimate, Alfonso Borgia having some roles in the church and, of course, in the court of King Alfonso V of Aragon. And at the time was St. Vincent Ferrer, who just like St. Catherine of Siena, worked endlessly to bring the church to heel and end the schism, and of course prophesied Borgia's chances to the papacy. So here we go, 1455. On 3 April, Monday, Thursday, I've seen this word before, Maundy, Monday. Okay, I didn't realize, because the word Thursday is right here. Or Monday. Oh, no, it's not Monday. My bad. I've seen this word only a couple of times, or once. Sorry. On 3 April, Monday, Thursday. Okay, so it takes place on a Thursday. Okay, let me repeat again. I'm very sorry. On 3 April, Monday, Thursday, Alfonso Borgia assembled with his fellow cardinals in St. Peter's to hear the Mass of the Holy Ghost and to listen to a sermon exhorting them to choose a worthy pope. On Good Friday, they followed the papal cross in procession from St. Peter's to the Vatican Palace, where the doors were sealed behind them. There were 20 cardinals in total in the College of Cardinals. but 5 of them were unable to reach the city in time. Okay, so here's the thing. One of Callixtus III's future successors, that would be Francesco della Rovere, who becomes Sixtus IV. He's the man who builds the Sistine Chapel on the Vatican grounds. So throughout the course of history, the Sistine Chapel never existed since the beginning uh, of the construction of the original St. Peter's Basilica in the early 4th century AD. So conclaves have been taken in different churches or in the papal palace, even way before the Sistine Chapel was even built, which would later be the place to hold conclaves every time. So just like we saw with the Council of Constance, it had to be held in another building when Martin V got elected. So here we have the cardinals in the papal palace holding the conclave, and they're locked inside. Like I said before, the Sistine Chapel wasn't built for another few years after Callixtus III's time, which is later mentioned, which I'm sorry, which Sixtus IV many years later would build it on the Vatican grounds. So right now, this conclave is being taken in the papal palace. And it also says here, 5 of them were unable to reach the city in time. So you had more cardinals on the way, but couldn't make it in time to cast their ballots. Of the 15 potential candidates present, only 7 were Italian. There were also 4 Spaniards, 2 Frenchmen, and 2 Greeks. Okay, so we have some cardinals of different countries, 7 Italian, 4 Spaniards, 2 Frenchmen. Okay, so you got a mix of different nationalities here. All were divided by various loyalties to the rival Colonna and Orsini factions, who dominated the politics of Rome. So the cardinals are divided over rival factions between the Colonna and the Orsini factions and their loyalty to them. Because there will always be deals to whoever, to one of the powerful Roman families, to benefit them the most and whatever. So there was so far no decision, no doubt on the first ballot. Okay, so I'm going to read this paragraph that's on the bottom. Cardinal Bessarion, painted by Jules Van Chant in Trebizond on the Black Sea. He adopted the name Bessarion when joining the Order of St. Basil. A powerful intellectual, he was a delegate to the Council of Florence in 1438 and shocked many of his fellow Orthodox Christians by converting to the Roman faith. Okay, so you had someone of Greek descent. So we see that he becomes a cardinal by converting to the Catholic faith. Okay, and we have another picture right here. Francesco Sforza, Duke of Milan, painted 1460 by Bonifacio Dembo. This condottiere successfully exploited his military talents and political guild to succeed his father-in-law as ruler of Milan in 1450. Okay, so I'm going to show you these pictures right here. So the first one with the cardinal's head, that's the Greek cardinal right there that converted from the Orthodox faith to Catholicism. And here is Francesco Sforza, the Duke of Milan. Okay, well, let's return. Next page. Okay, so here we are on page 48. Now I'm going to read this highlighted part right here. the rituals of papal elections. So we're going to get to how the conclave works. On the death of a pope, an army of workmen moved into the Vatican in order to isolate a section of the palace from the outside world, breaking up doors and covering all the windows with thick black cloth. The entrance to the conclave was guarded by armed soldiers as well as bishops and ambassadors. Each cardinal had his food prepared at home and it was brought every day to the entrance of the conclave, packed in a special basket, which was carefully inspected by the bishops, working working 2 hourly shifts. They opened pies and roasted birds to make sure nothing had been secreted within, and sniffed the wine before the baskets were placed on a set of revolving shelves, specially constructed by workmen to allow the food to pass unaided into the conclave hall. So once the cardinals come in time for the conclave, they're like, as it says here, you got bishops and soldiers guarding the place, but as it's each cardinal had, oh, let me see. Okay, so they're isolate. They're okay. Moved into the Vatican in order to isolate a section of the palace from the outside world. So they're inside the palace, and then they're sectioned off, kind of like um how would I say this? Kind of like barracks, but you have each section divided, and then food would have to be brought in from the outside world. That means you have families or whoever bringing in baskets of food each day, and they had to be inspected, make sure there was nothing secretive, like secret messages or money, like for bribes or whatever. It's like what I talked about in the show The Borgias with Jeremy Irons playing Alexander the Sixth, because in the very first episode of the show, the conclave takes place, and this is where we see the bribery come in play, messages, bribes, and what deals that Borgia would make with them, like offices and whatever, in order to elect him. This is what it's trying to say here. Make sure no funny business no funny business inside the cooked food. Nothing like that, like messages, whatever. Even the wine had to be inspected. Make sure none of it was poisoned. Okay, inside the hall, wooden cubicles were built for each of the cardinals, measuring 10 feet by 15 feet. They were draped with hangings, like I mentioned, purple for those cardinals who had been created by the dead pope, and green for the rest. Each cubicle was assigned by lot a few days before the conclave opened and clearly identified by its owner's coat of arms. So let me read this one more time. Each cubicle was assigned by a lot. Wait a minute. Each cubicle was assigned by lot a few days before the conclave opened and clearly identified by its owner's coat of arms. So whatever section they were in, they would be identified by their coat of arms. It was a cramped space, furnished with charcoal braziers for reheating food and candles for light. Here, the cardinal, together with his courtier or secretary and their menial servant, would sleep, wash, eat, and use the commode and use the commode. I don't know what that means. Commode. In the summer, the heat and stench would have been intolerable. The cardinals assembled without attendance every morning and sometimes twice a day in an adjoining hall for the lengthy voting process known as a scrutiny. They went in turn to the voting table where they wrote the names of up to 3 candidates on a piece of paper before placing it in an urn. So, like in all conclaves throughout the centuries, you would write down the name on a little piece of paper, like a note card, and then you would place it in an urn, and then that's when we see the ballots being counted and see who got the 2/3 majority or more. Okay, so on a piece of paper before placing it in an urn, the votes were then counted by the official in charge, who announced the result and burned the papers. So whether there was no decision on a 2/3 vote, those those ballots would be burned, simply being placed inside a furnace, and it would send off black smoke. Well, if there was no decision, they would put the votes in a furnace and then put in some damp straw to create the black smoke, signaling no decision. But if there was a decision by a 2/3 vote or more, just the ballots themselves would just be thrown in there, creating the white smoke, signaling a decision. But nowadays, the Vatican has done something different with chemical compounds. So I think they use some different type of device, kind of like a furnace. I forget what they put in there to create the white smoke, but I think they still do the same with when doing the black smoke when there was no decision, or probably something similar to um, the compound to make the white smoke, but for black. Or they still do the same thing with just simply putting in damp straw in the furnace to create the black smoke. With conclaves we see nowadays. Okay, so it was also possible to elect a pope by ascension. Okay, whereby one cardinal verbally nominated a candidate and asked the others to vote directly. Okay, so right here, the word in quotations, ascension. So therefore, there would be someone they deem worthy um, to to elect as pope without even casting the ballot. Now, this has been similar done before. I know that Pope Saint Celestine V was would that Pope Saint Celestine V would be the right man in charge. I mean, the right man to take charge of the church, even though he was not a member of the clergy but a monk at the time. So I forget the name of the cardinal. I think he was a member of the Orsini family that that picked Celestine as the proper candidate, even though, like I said, not a monk. Just simply saying, I nominate this monk as our new leader of the church. This has been done with a couple other popes too. Blessed Innocent the 11th and Clement the 10th have been through this process before as well, many centuries later. But this was abolished in 1996 by anti-Pope John Paul II. That's right, you heard me correctly, anti-Pope John Paul II, because again, I'm a traditionalist Catholic. I'm a sedevacantist traditionalist Catholic. I do not recognize the popes of the Second Vatican Council from John the 23rd to Francis. And John Paul II has said some things that are deemed heretical, but I'm not going to get into that. Okay. Whereby one cardinal verbally nominated a candidate and asked the others to vote directly. In each case, the winning candidate needed to acquire the votes of 2/3 of the electorate. The long hours between the scrutinies were spent plotting and negotiating, and much use was made of tactical voting, especially in the early stages, to get support from non-favorites and build up a faction powerful enough to swing the election. Yeah, okay. So you need to get the 2/3 vote to whoever's I'm trying to look for the word, a worthy candidate. Yeah. So I'm gonna read this one paragraph down below on page 48. The benediction loggia at Old St. Peter's in the Vatican Palace, Rome. The drawing made in 1539 by the Dutch artist Martin van Heemskerk shows how Renaissance popes embellished this focal point of their power and prestige. The massive three-story arcades facing uh, facing front. Okay, I'll show the picture in a second of the Benediction Loggian started by Pius II in 1461. The pitched roof of the Sistine Chapel, built by Sixtus IV, begun in 1477, just visible behind the ornamented entrance to the palace and the imposing extensions to the palace itself on the right, started by Leo X in the fifth in the started by started by Leo X in the 1520s. Okay, so here we go. Here's a picture by a Dutch artist in the this was done in 1539. Okay, so you have the old St. Peter's Basilica at the time being built when they were already bringing down the old basilica. So this is a picture going back to 1539. This is a picture of old St. Peter's. Let me see if I can pull this up. Sorry. So like right here, this is like the front entrance to where to the main building of the basilica. Then you got like the Papal Palace and the Sistine Chapel in this area as well. Okay, be careful here. I don't want to damage this. Okay, okay. So here we are, page 49. On 8 April, the Milanese ambassador reported to his master, Duke Francesco Sforza, that up to this hour no one has been elected to the papacy, despite the fact that there have already been three scrutinies. It is to be hoped that the fourth, which they are holding at this moment, will produce a result because the cardinals are particularly worried about the people of Rome, who are beginning to complain about the delay, and we, who are part of the guard at the palace, keep trying to reassure them. If God allows them to agree on someone, we will add a note to this letter and send it at speed with the courier we are holding in readiness here in case there is any news. We are in danger of having everything stolen by the angry mob, which has gathered here to see the Pope when he is elected. We will let your lordship know in what way and when this election will happen. This this is to say who is elected and how. Okay, so there's already so it looks like in the hopes that the fourth, which they are holding at this moment. Okay, so a fourth ballot is about to be casted right about now. So you have the ambassador of Milan telling his master Francesco Sforza, the Duke of Milan, what's going on right now. That there's a fourth ballot about to be cast, and right now the people of Rome they're already getting. I think it says here right about the people of Rome who are beginning to complain about the delay. Okay, so there's like a delay going on, and they're already complaining. So, and what it says here, we are in danger of having everything stolen by the angry mob, which is gathered here. Okay, so you got an angry mob already getting mad that no one has been elected. I mean, it takes time to elect someone worthy of the papacy, and there's already an angry mob in place. And the ambassador is already has someone on standby to present this same letter he's writing to the Duke to send to the cardinals if things go well, if they don't produce a result right away, because the people are already getting furious. Okay, here we go. Continue on page 49 on the very bottom. On the previous on on the previous day, the scholarly Cardinal Bessarion had emerged as the favorite, to the horror of the French. Shall we elect a Greek to lead the Latin Church? Okay, so that one cardinal we're just reading about, it looks like he seems to be a favorite candidate, but now you got uh, the French all already getting worried. I mean, they're shocked to hear that a Greek candidate could be the chosen pope, and they don't want a Greek that have been part of the Orthodox Church as being the one to lead the Latin Church. One argued, adding for good measure, that Bessarion had not even shaved off his beard yet. Okay, so you have that same Greek cardinal who had just converted to Catholicism. He's now a cardinal, and he has a full-grown beard. And they're wondering, do we want a pope with a long beard that hasn't been shaved off yet? Because back then you had to have a shaved face as part of a policy when leading the church. I mean, when Julius II, many years later, after Alexander VI died, he started growing a beard, which went against part of the grooming policies when being the Roman pontiff. Okay, shaved off his beard yet. Okay, by the following morning, it was clear that they needed to choose a compromise candidate. And so, on 8 April, the conclave elected Alfonso Borgia as Pope. Okay, there you have it. Alfonso Borgia is now the new Pope. They have elected him. And it says, like right here at the end of the sentence, by the following morning, it was clear that they needed to choose a compromise candidate. So they need someone to make deals here. And you know what? I don't really like the word compromise. I find it really evil and disgusting that there should be deals made here. We'll elect you if so and so and so. We'll strike a deal with you, electing you if you do whatever we say. And I don't like the word compromise. And as a Catholic, I would find it in my own personal belief that the word compromise should be another word of sacrilege, that there should be no deals. There needs to be someone worthy that's willing to uphold church tradition. And I don't like that word. Even in secular politics, like here in the United States, I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just saying we've got people in America right now that are compromised, not just here in America, but parts of the world. But again, I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to switch topics here. No, I'm just saying, just the word compromise is just so awful, and I don't like it. So now our candidate Alfonso Borgia, Cardinal Alfonso Borgia, is now the new pope. So let us begin. Let us keep reading. Sorry. At 77 years old, Alonso Borgia was the oldest candidate in the college. The cardinals have agreed on the Cardinal of Valencia, wrote the Milanese ambassador, because he is old and they each hope that they can get their own candidate elected at the next election, which, given Alonso's age, was expected to be soon. He is a man of great piety and scholarship, a friend and ally to King Alfonso, whom he served reported the Sienese envoy, while the Bishop of Florence praised his good nature, his shrewd mind, and his lack of bias. Okay, as I have said in the last video, while Borgia was still a cardinal, Alfonso Borgia was a good man of piety, took his faith serious, and was never considered to be like a really bad guy, especially during his time as Pope. So now we have the very first ever Spanish Pope to the papacy in Rome. Now, um, as we had talked about in the Great Western Schism, okay, one of the claimants from Avignon, two of them, anti-Pope Benedict XIII and anti-Pope Clement VIII. Both of them are from Spain, even though Benedict had served in Avignon but moved his court direct to his fortress castle in Pensacola. Same thing with Clement. So, as it says here, the college cardinals have agreed on the Cardinal of Valencia, wrote the Milanese ambassador, because he is old, and they each hope that they can get their own candidate elected at the next election, which, given Alfonso's age, was expected to be soon. He is a man of great piety and scholarship, a friend and ally of King Alfonso. Okay, so these cardinals know that he, since the time of his birth, and even as part of the church, and then as a loyal man, secretary, and who was a friend and ally to King Alfonso V of Aragon, a man who has been worked really hard during his time within the church into finally becoming bishop and cardinal. And of course, right here, praised his good nature, his shrewd mind, and his lack of bias. So, Borgia, no bias, had a shrewd mind, so therefore a good mind. So, here we go. Next page. Now I'm going to read this highlighted paragraph titled "A Prophecy Realized." When they held the next scrutiny, sorry, let me read this again. A prophecy realized. When they held the next scrutiny, they tried the method known as ascension. The 2/3 of the cardinals gave their votes to the man who had been judged the most improbable candidate at the outset. Alfonso, Cardinal of Valencia. He was a famous lawyer with much experience, but now old and very frail because he was over 70. It is said that he predicted his election a few years ago, before the last conclave, telling everyone he meant that he would be pope, but they all thought he was senile and this is sorry, but they all thought he was senile and disbelieved him. By now his prophecy has come true. He said it had been predicted by Saint Vincent, another Spaniard, whom he later made a saint. Alfonso then sat on the throne and chose the name Callixtus III and wore a solemn oath. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read this again. Alfonso then sat on the throne and chose the name Callixtus III and swore a solemn oath to focus all his energy against the Turks. Okay, so here we are. He takes the name Callixtus III. His main focus and oath, his solemn oath, was to focus his energies against the Turks because the Turks had just taken over Constantinople and the end of the Byzantine Empire, which is the Eastern Roman Empire. So here we go. Now we got Alfonso Borgia as Pope Callixtus III. The new Borgia Pope chose as his papal title Callixtus III, and he made a solemn. Let me read this again. Sorry. The new Borgia Pope chose as his papal title Callixtus III, and he made a solemn vow. I, Pope Callixtus III, do promise, do promise and swear to the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, to the Virgin Mary, and to the apostles Peter and Paul, and to all the heavenly host. Oh, sorry. Let me read this again. Let me read this quote again from Pope Callixtus. I, Pope Callixtus III, do promise and swear to the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, to the Virgin Mary, and to the apostles Peter and Paul, and to all the heavenly host, that I will do all in my power, even sacrifice my life, if need be, to reconquer Constantinople, which has been captured and destroyed by Mehmed II in punishment for our sins. Even before his coronation, Callixtus III began to take stock of the financial state of the church. Nicholas V had left Nicholas V, Nicholas V had left debts of 70,432 florins, and the new pope ordered a special audit for the account books. He also initiated an inventory of the valuable manuscripts bought by Nicholas V for his library, with the intention of removing their costly silver bindings to sell for the crusade. Okay, so Pope Callixtus III, he or so Pope Callixtus III, before his coronation, which it says here, began to take began to take stock of the financial state of the church. So, okay, so now Nicholas the so his predecessor, that would be Pope Nicholas V, he left the church in debt. So, and over 70,400 florins, which is the florins are the Florentine currency in Florence, Italy. So there's debt, and Calixtus has already ordered an audit. So some things had to be sold off. So he also initiated an inventory of the valuable manuscripts bought by Nicholas V. Okay, so the inventory of manuscripts that Nicholas V had bought, that had to be sold off, and to get debt cleared away. He sold off the so he sold off the manuscripts that Nicholas V had bought, sold them. Not an intention of removing their costly silver binding. So anything else that was uh, bought by Nicholas V not only helped clear the debt, but to also finance a crusade to get back Constantinople. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to move on to right here to page 51. Okay, so this is another section right here concerning Calixtus III's papacy, an era of austerity. So let's see, austerity. Okay, an era of austerity. Immediately after his election, Calixtus III, who preferred a plain, austere lifestyle, made radical cuts to papal expenditure. So let me look up the word austerity really quick. Austerity. Definition. Here we go. Sternness or severity of manner or attitude, extreme plainness and simplicity. Okay, so yeah, okay, so it means living a simple lifestyle. So okay, so condition characterized by severely sternness and okay. sternness. Okay, so it looks like there had to be like cuts and trying to live a simple life. Now that uh, Borgia had been elected, and of course he was old, knowing he's not going to last long. So things had to be cut back, like it says here, made radical cuts to papal expenditure. So things had to be cut back, live a simple lifestyle. Now that he's 77 years old, and knowing he's not going to be around for a while. So here we go. At the Vatican, he reduced household costs by 40%, sold all his predecessors' expensively carved furniture, buying plain chairs and tables instead. Okay, so cutbacks, budget cuts. That's what Callixtus is doing right here. So okay, good thing he's doing that. Okay, so okay, plain chairs and tables, plain chairs and tables instead. Replace the valuable silver candlesticks in the papal chapel with ones made of lead, and remove the costly velvet and silver bindings from Nicholas V's manuscripts. Though he kept the texts, which are still in the Vatican. Okay, so there are manuscripts and text. Wait a minute. Okay, so there are texts that Nicholas V had, and they're still kept in the Vatican, which says here. So a lot of stuff had to be sold off. So wow. So silver candlesticks in the chapel, once made of lead. So it looks like there were candles made of silver or probably painted silver. I don't know. And then they were replaced with ones with lead. Costly velvet and silver bindings from Nicholas V's manuscripts. So bindings made of velvet and silver. Um, those were sold off as well. Okay. Okay, so these texts that Nicholas V had still exist today in the Vatican Library. He stopped work on Nicholas V's ambitious program of urban renewal and sold off jewels and valuables from the papal treasury. King Alfonso of Naples bought several gilded vases and cups, a silver wine cooler, sweetmeat platters, and silver chapel items. So it looks like right here we got uh, the king of Aragon, now the king of Naples, buying some of the stuff that Calixtus was selling off. Okay, so let's see. And all the programs that Nicholas V was doing, like the infrastructure around Rome, that had to be put to a halt. And then, of course, well, we know that Nicholas V was trying to renovate St. Peter's as well, since it was already badly neglected and needed some serious repairs. Like I said way before, that the church had been in Avignon, France, for like almost 100 years. Well, let's see. Yeah, almost 100 years, because it was in the early 1300s, and then when Gregory the 11th came back, this was in 1378. So yeah, almost a whole century. And then you got the schism and all, yada yada. So this is where we see Callixtus III really had to cut back on a lot of things here. When gilded plates were placed on the Pope's dining table, he is reported to have told his steward to take them away to raise money for the crusade, to raise money for the Crusaders. Okay, so okay, okay, so gilded plates were placed on the Pope's dining table. So it looks like there were special dining plates, and then had his steward take them away to raise money for the crusade. So more stuff was sold off to finance a crusade and to produce soldiers. Adding, terracotta is good enough for me. Nevertheless, malicious tales soon spread that the Pope was a Philistine, unaware of the real value of these treasures. Philistine. Uh, well, He's trying to be simple, and he's old, and now with Constantinople being taken over by the Turks, he had to sold off a lot of things to finance a crusade. So we're going to read this paragraph in italics right here. So, okay, the Vespasian memoirs. Okay, when Pope Callixtus III saw the 500 wonderful books in rich bindings with silver clasps, which had belonged to his predecessor, he was amazed, for this old lawyer had only used books bound in cheap cloth before. On entering the library, instead of praising the dead Pope's learning, he exclaimed, "Look where the treasure of the church has gone," and then started to break up the collection, giving many to Cardinal Isidore of Kiev, but he had become senile with age, and the volume and the volumes, which had cost many gold florins, were sold by the cardinal's servant for a few silver coins. Okay, so then started to break up the collection, giving many to Cardinal Isidore of Kiev. The cardinal, okay, Cardinal Isidore of Kiev, the Ukrainian cardinal that had been legate to Constantinople at the time of the siege of Constantinople by Mehmed II of the Ottoman Empire, who had escaped all the atrocities that had happened, then of course taken prisoner, sold as a slave, and then finally making his way back to Italy by traveling to Venice and then moving south to Rome to tell his story. But as it says here, but he had become senile with age. So Cardinal Isidore of Kiev was already old and not all up there, senile, as it says here. So right here, okay. So here we are. Um, let's see how far I'll get to right now. Okay, the new pope The new pope celebrated Mass in St. Peter's on the morning of 20 April before coming out onto the steps of the ancient basilica to be crowned with the papal tiara by the senior cardinal deacon, Prospero Colonna. Prospero Colonna. Let me read this again, sorry. The new pope celebrated Mass in St. Peter's. The new pope celebrated Mass in St. Peter's on the morning of 20 April before coming out onto the steps of the ancient basilica to be crowned with the papal tiara by the senior cardinal deacon, Prospero Colonna. Then, in a huge procession of cardinals, prelates, Roman barons, and magistrates, he embarked on his procession, riding across the city on a white horse in San Giovanni in Laterano, where he was consecrated as the Bishop of Rome. At Monte Giordano, by the great Orsini Palace, he was met by a group of Jewish rabbis who offered him a copy of the Torah, which he rejected with the customary words, "We ratify your law, but we denounce your interpretation." In the Campo di Fiori, there was a violent confrontation between supporters of the Orsini and Colonna families. Okay, so Alfonso Borgia, now Pope Callixtus III, has his coronation. He has been crowned with the papal tiara, and now a procession going around Rome on a white horse. And then, of course, he's met by, as it says here, where is it? Met. He was met by a group of rabbis who offered him a copy of the Torah. So he was met by Jewish rabbis who gave him a copy of the Torah, which he rejected with the customary words, "We ratify your law, but we denounce your interpretation." So, rejected customary words. The Torah, basically the Old Testament of the Bible, which the Jewish tradition goes by. So they're giving him a copy, but they they denounce his interpretation by the Christians, of course, which is what they believe. That's why Calixtus refused to take it, and now there's a confrontation between the houses of Colonna and Orsini. On 15 May, Callixtus III published a papal bull proclaiming his crusade against the Turks. It contained measures for raising money to equip the fleet and an offer of indulgences to all those who would fight. It was decided that the fleet would leave on 1 March the following year. The Pope thinks and talks of nothing else but the crusade, Gabriel the wrote Gabriel da Verona, adding that he deals with other matters with a single word but speaks about this subject continually. So, like we saw with Nicholas V, and now with Callixtus III, raising funds for a crusade, and all Callixtus can do is talk about the crusade. And just like we saw with Nicholas V, granting indulgences and forgiving all sins, in, if anyone takes up the cause to fight against the Turks at Constantinople. This is all what Callixtus ever talked about. That was his only concern, because that was the vow he made. I think this was no doubt the same kind of thing that Pope Urban II did with the First Crusade in 1095. Granting indulgences, forgiving all sins who take up the cause to fight the Turks that had taken over Jerusalem, because the Byzantine Emperor at the time, Alexius I, he knew that Turks were coming to his city, and he needed to fight them off because they could have taken over Constantinople as well. And of course, the Crusaders fought off the Turks at every city they got their hands on, like Antioch. And then finally with Jerusalem. Okay, Calixtus III's second priority after the Crusade was the canonization of Saint Vincent Ferrer, who had predicted his election to the papacy some 40 years earlier. This was planned for 23 May, but the process had not been completed in time, so it was postponed to June. So it was postponed to 29 June. Okay, so two things Calixtus III is going to do: launch a crusade and then canonize Saint Vincent Ferrer, who prophesied his election. Meanwhile, Calixtus began to promote the church careers of two of his nephews. Rodrigo Borgia was made Dean of Santa Maria in Yativa on 3 June, and a month later, the Pope appointed Luis Juan de Milla, the son of another of his sisters, as governor of Bologna. Okay, now we got the future Pope Alexander VI, Rodrigo Borgia. He's now made a dean of Santa Maria in Yativa, which is in Spain, because Rodrigo is still in Spain. And then, of course, he makes another nephew to one of his sisters, appointed the governor of Bologna, Luis Juan de Milla. During the summer of 1455, Callixtus III appointed legates to be sent to all the rulers of Christendom to ask for their help in financing the crusade. On 8 September, he gave the legates a cross, the symbol of his authority, to Cardinal Alain Cotevi, who left for France, and to Cardinal Juan Carvajal, who was traveling to the territories of Germany, Hungary, and Poland. He also appointed Pedro de Ura, the Archbishop of Tarragona, to lead a small fleet into the Aegean to face the Turks. The next day, it was reported that the Pope performed the ceremony with much devotion and with tears in his eyes, because he is so passionate in his determination to go to war against the Turks. And anybody who gets in his way is guilty of a great sin. Work started on building and equipping the new fleet in the autumn, and the port of Rome soon resembled a naval dockyard. Callixtus III appointed cardinals Ludovico Travisian, Pietro Barbo, Domenico Capranica, Latino Orsini, Bessarion, and Giulia, Giulia Umi, Giulio Mumi di Estadevilla, a lot of names I'm having a hard time trying to pronounce here, to a commission that would take charge of the work. The quantities of iron and timber to build the galleys, arms, armor, banners, and tents for the soldiers, and even the biscuits baked for the expedition were recorded in the papal account books. So everything's being built, and he's got cardinals as legates going across Europe to different kingdoms in hopes of helping out in producing soldiers to fight the Turks in Constantinople. So we see here Callixtus' promise being fulfilled and preparing for a crusade. So we're going to stop here at page 43. Okay. And we're going to read, and then we'll start off in the next video with this one paragraph that's highlighted, the new Borgia Cardinals. Okay. So we'll stop right here. So chapter 2 of the Borgia Chronicles is starting off really well with Cardinal Alfonso Borgia, the first Borgia Pope, the very first Spanish Pope from Spain to be the new Pope, taking the name Pope Callixtus III. So far chapter 2 is starting off really well. All right, tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for more videos on the Borgia Chronicles. All right, I will see you soon. Have a blessed day. Take care now. Bye.